mainstreaming gender into policies and financial planning instruments is very critical to ensuring inclusive and sustainable development. We must all work together towards gender equality to move the world towards a sustainable future that works for all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, today I really want to highlight why gender mainstreaming into policy and financial planning instrument is critical and important. This is an issue that affects us all, regardless of our gender. As Professor Nana Ama Brown said, she's a Ghanaian mathematical physicist with the African Institute for Mathematical Sciences. And she pointed out in her work with the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change that Africa is already being negatively affected by climate change. And despite contributing less greenhouse gas emission, it is said to be even more severely impacted than other continents. This is a concern, especially for coastal communities, as sea levels are likely to continue to rise in Africa. We really need to take action now to address this issue. This means taking into account the different needs and experiences of men and women when designing those policies and financial plans. For example, investing in renewable sources can provide opportunities for women to access income-generating activities in rural areas. In conclusion, it is clear that mainstreaming gender into policy and financial planning instrument is an issue that affects us all. We must work together to address this issue and take action to mitigate the effects of climate change across Africa. So it is our role to do it today. And I really hope that in this event, we'll be able to discuss all these important issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Next, to take a look at how we will merge science and research into all of this is a very great partner for this program. And the lead is Dr. Elizabeth Politzer, and she's also coming to give us an address from Portia Limited in the UK.
Thank you very much. I will stand here because the microphone works better from here. So, yes, thank you, wonderful introduction. I'm not going to go through the same ground. I just wanted to say this is the 4th Gender Summit for Africa, 23rd in a series since 2011. Gender Summit is an output from a European project, and 23rd there is a demand for such an event. It is not a conference in a traditional sense. It's a platform for dialogue between scientists, gender scholars, policymakers, and different stakeholders from education and industry, and you're all represented here. And take your eyes from your iPhones for a moment, and there's 7 minutes of this video here which tells you what the Gender Summit is about. Okay, it's more than women. It's about what science does for society. And it has to do good science for everybody in society, not just for some selected groups. A lot of science was done for a very long time using young white men in America. It was done using male rats and male mice. And so there are gender biases, biological, sociocultural, in knowledge that disadvantage many people. So that's the purpose of the Gender Summit. In this particular Gender Summit, which is the 4th for Africa, the first one was on poverty, the second one was on climate change, the third one was on agriculture, this one is on energy. As you notice, you have no printed material here, okay? We are for sustainability. Okay, we had 2 days of online event because we realized that a lot of people can't travel, don't want to travel, but want to be part of this whole initiative. So we had 2 days of online event last week. 500 people registered for it. We have to close, for this event, we had to close the registration to 300 because of the capacity of this room. I think half of the people must be still on the LA road because of the traffic. So please, you are part now of the big initiative. So far, we had 10,000 of attendees, 2,000 speakers, so you are just doing this. And as you see there, there's one slide there that actually calls on Ghana to take a leadership. Because what is happening is 8 of SDGs have no gender indicator and no gender targets. Okay, this is time for Ghana to take the lead to make sure that these 8 indicators do actually incorporate gender equality as an objective. Every SDG has got a gender aspect, but it's not recognized in the agenda explicitly, but it is there in science. So we hope that Ghana can take the lead on that. Okay, I should finish now. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We will have a video playback from Henry Luce Foundation now. Okay, all right. So the video is now loading. Going forward, or very soon, there's going to be a panel discussion that will be led by myself, and we will be talking about strategies and partnerships for sustainable green transition in Africa. And of course, the people that will be on the panel are Honorable Kwaku Afriyie, Minister for Environment, Science, Technology, and Innovation from Ghana, Mr. Peter Smith van Gelder, who is the Deputy Head of Mission and Head of the Political Section of the European Union Delegation to Ghana. Then Mrs. Awa Thiaka Dieng, who is the Gender and Equity Unit Minister for Energy and Petroleum, Senegal. Then Ms. Kathleen Flynn Dapa, who is the Director of Development, Head of Cooperation, High Commission of Canada, Ghana. She will also be on the panel. And then Mrs. Monka Sandra Aulate, who is the Director, ECOWAS Gender Development Center. Is the video ready now? All right, whilst they are waiting for that, we could start the panel discussion there then. So, okay, it's playing.
Claire Booth-Luce Program for Women in STEM, or just CBL. This program seeks to increase the number. Hello, my name is Sarah DiMartazzi, and I'm the Program Manager for the Claire Booth-Luce Program and STEM Convergence Program with the Henry Luce Foundation. Thank you so much to the African Institute for Mathematical Sciences for the invitation to speak with you today. It is an absolute pleasure. The Henry Luce Foundation has supported women in STEM for over 30 years through its Claire Booth-Luce Program for Women in STEM, or just CBL. This program seeks to increase the number of female students and professors in STEM higher education institutions across the United States. Within the last few years, the Henry Luce Foundation has sought to expand upon the work started by the CBL program through its newly created STEM Convergence Program, which seeks to mitigate barriers faced by women, particularly women of color, who struggle to enter, flourish, and remain in STEM fields. It is through this arm of the foundation that we have partnered with AIMS to support the Gender Summit. The Henry Luce Foundation strives to be a leader in supporting the research and implementation of strategies to address race and gender discrimination in STEM. We've had the privilege of working with AIMS over the last 3 years to help accelerate progress for African women in STEM. It is no secret that globally, women remain grossly underrepresented in STEM fields in higher education and industry. We are less likely to be hired, promoted, and rewarded for the work that we do. And that's if we're even able to enter STEM. According to a 2020 article published by UNICEF, 125 million girls in developing nations are out of school and missing critical opportunities to develop STEM skills. This is despite those girls who are enrolled in STEM showing equal proficiency in STEM to boys. This represents a loss in potential and means fewer scientists in the world. In looking to the future, it is imperative that we diversify STEM in order to effectively address a world of increasingly complex problems, from pandemics to climate change. This is why we are so honored to partner with AIMS in applying a gender lens to science and the SDGs, in greening energy systems, and in exploring a Green New Deal for Africa. If we are to solve complicated global issues, we need everyone at the table, particularly those who are most adversely impacted and vulnerable to global crises. It is the Foundation's hope that by supporting and empowering women scientists across the globe, we can propel scientific discovery and find solutions that truly, truly benefit all. Thank you so much, and I want to wish everyone a fantastic
Thank you so much. It's time for the panel discussion, and I would like to have a few minutes of your time to be able to tell a bit about everyone that is going to be on the panel. I'm going to start with the Deputy Minister for Energy. He's currently the Deputy Minister for Energy for Ghana, and he is Honorable Herbert Krapa. He used to be a lecturer at the University of Ghana Law School, part-time, former Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry. He used to be a government spokesperson on governance and legal affairs, and he's an associate lawyer for the African Legal Associates. Without much ado, ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause, let's welcome the Deputy Minister for Energy, Ghana. The next to be on the panel is the Minister for Environment. He's Dr. Kwaku Afriyie. He has a Bachelor of Medicine and Surgery from the University of Ghana Medical School and a Master of Public Health at Tulane University in New Orleans, the United States. He's a fellow of the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons. Dr. Afriyie is a medical doctor by profession and a proud farmer. From 1982 to 1984, Dr. Afriyie served at Korle Bu Teaching Hospital and Effiang Kwanta Hospital, and later became the Health Service Director at Bibiani Government Hospital. He was also the Managing Director of the Green Shields Hospital in Sefirioso and Bekwai in the Western North region from 2005 to 2014. Ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause, let's welcome the Minister for Environment. Also on the panel is Mrs. Awa Thiaka Dien, who is the Gender and Equity Unit, Ministry of Energy and Petroleum, Senegal. She has a master's in communication and coordinates the Gender and Equity Unit of the Ministry of Petroleum and Energy, set up in 2020. Regarding gender, she follows the training of trainers initiated by ECOWAS in 2019. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mrs. Awa Thiaka Yen. Also on the panel is Kathleen Fling Dapa, who's the Director of Development, Head of Corporate High Commission of Canada, Ghana. Kathleen began her career at Canada's International Development Research Center in 1999, where she focused on integrating gender equality into various sectors, including natural resource management, health, and information and communication technologies for development. With a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Kathleen. Also on the panel to bring us the ECOWAS perspectives is Mrs. Monka Sandra Olate. She's the director of the Gender Development Center at ECOWAS. In the position, she is leading the development and implementation of the gender policies in ECOWAS region. As part of its key activities, the center is involved in the development of a regional policy and advocacy on gender policies, mobilizing women and empowering them to be active participants in the regional integration process. Please welcome Mrs. Monka Sandra Olate. Last but not the least is Mr. Pieter Smith van Gelder, Deputy Head of Mission and Head of the Political Section, European Union Delegation to Ghana. Please welcome. Welcome to you all. So my very first question goes to the Ministry of Energy from Ghana. I have taken a look at the energy transition policy and also taking a look at how much you're planning to invest in the sector before 2070. As much as $562 billion is what we're looking at investing in the energy transition sector. One of the places I also noticed from the policy document is that you're looking at reducing the man hours that women spend for up to 30.5 million man hours in the whole energy value chain. My question is, how are you positioned to make sure this happens, especially with the current challenges that Ghana is going through?
Thank you. Thank you very much. And we should say a warm good morning to all of you. For once, I'm attending an event that is 99% women. And I think it feels better. And congratulations to AIMS as well for organizing this. I think the more we bring attention to the issues that plague us, especially with the development of women and young people, the better that policymakers are able to take feedback, constructive feedback, and mainstream that in developing policies that affect women and youth. But to your question, I think the transition framework that we have developed here in Ghana is essentially, you're right, I think you've read the document very well. It's essentially to, by 2070, develop a pathway for the energy transition and reduce our emissions significantly to levels that are globally accepted. Of course, my boss, who is the environment minister, plays a very significant role in the whole questioning of the environment and mitigation efforts, and I'm sure that he will speak extensively about that. For us, in developing this framework, we had women, the impact that it has on women and youth as well, and that's the section that tries to inculcate, first of all, technologies and cleaner fuels for cooking, for instance. You are right, 30.5 million hours will be saved for women and youth, because they are the ones who are the main gatherers of wood fuels. And you know the impact that that would have by introducing cleaner fuels and cleaner technologies. What we have done, apart from the policy that is in the framework, is to introduce a cylinder recirculation, which means that we distribute these canisters, the cylinders, for free, and then they are able to purchase the LPG for cooking. We're also distributing clean cook stoves. We have a policy to distribute 500,000 of them. I checked last week with Mrs. Dodu, the coordinator at the ministry in charge of that, and she tells me that they are hitting the last phase of it, meaning that over 400,000 of them have been distributed across the country to introduce women more and more to cleaner fuels for cooking and cleaner technologies for cooking. Another thing that we're estimating from the framework is about 1.4 million jobs that will be created directly impacting women and young people, still from the introduction of the technologies that we are bringing into renewables, EV fuel charging stations, the production of solar panels, green hydrogen, and the rest of them. So these technologies also, we estimate that once we put the investment in and attract also the investment into the economy for these sectors, women and youth will be impacted in that regard. Closely associated with that is the skills training. And again, the Ministry of Education, with a lot of push for STEM courses, we're working with them to ensure that we're mainstreaming some of these technologies for skills training for young people and women to be able to be part of the job market in this regard. The whole new range of modern renewable technologies that are being introduced require that we develop the skill set for that sector, and the policy ensures that we work closely with the Ministry of Education for that. Finally, probably is the impact of health, which is very closely related. Our women are essentially the ones who are exposed mostly to the indoor exposure to these carbon emissions and the fumes from cooking with wood fuels. And so the impact that would also have from the technologies that we're introducing and from the cook stoves that we're introducing, we believe should be significant, and we believe that we should do more in that regard to secure better health for our women and for our youth. Thank you.
Honorable Minister, I want to find out from you, from the perspective of environment and innovation, what sort of connectivities have we been able to create as a country across the other ministries, especially with focus on women and women's skills development, women's access to the environment, and women's access to cleaner forms of energy?
Well, first of all, let me also thank you for the opportunity. Mesty, as we all know, is, I've always been using football speak. It's an offensive midfielder, if you, in the governance system of this country, because we actually coordinate policies across the governance spectrum. But with regard to these climate issues, they lie in the bosom of Mesty, and tied to climate issues are the issues of energy and energy transition. And in that conundrum is also tied in sociology, women issues, children issues. That has even the role of women in society in general and women marginalization cuts across several issues. But the most opportune time is for we to integrate these energy transition issues, to use it as a pivot to address women issues. Because if you take poverty, for example, a lot of it can even be, especially in Africa, can be traced to energy issues. A lot of, you use the term man hours, I say women hours, as spent in gathering energy, so to speak, for domestic use. So, Mesty, yes, we have been coordinating all the policies, energy transition and all that. When you talk about custos, for example, we negotiate under Paris, I think Article 6.4. Yes. Under 6.4, we negotiate with countries. We have an agreement with Switzerland, for example. The agreement, the repository ministry is Mesty, but the beneficiaries are energy. So when he talks about what they call custos and what we call it, cylinders and all that, is Mesty, which has the knowledge and capacity, or at least not we alone, but we have the mandate to look at it and negotiate on behalf of government and make sure that everything is done on an even keel. And part of it is to make sure that women issues are particularly addressed, especially as end users. So to answer you directly, again, let me also go on the subject of STEM education, for example, with Ministry of Education. We make sure that all the policies are aligned and the women issues are also addressed. Like I've said before, all these issues are cultural, and so we see that as an opportunity to address the issues that have afflicting women and even to some extent children in our society. Mesty believes that not to address this women issue is not being smart. Half of your population are women, in Ghana even slightly more. And to jettison that resource and not to use them is waste of brain power, waste of women power, waste of muscle power, waste of everything that you can think of. So implicitly or empirically, we believe that women issues, we should use the contemporary issues that are arising to address them. And energy is part of it. In fact, if you leverage on energy to address these women issues, you impact the rest of society. Society will then know the contribution that women can make along all the values chains. For example, we have another issue that is not under this discussion, but I hasten to bring it up to the fore. The issue of plastic pollution. Again, we know that there are opportunities to address the poverty issues in Ghana that are to do with this issue of, littering of our environment with plastics and so on and so forth. So Mesty is very conscious of our mandate and the need to do the needful as far as women and even children are concerned. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I'd like to go to Senegal now and take a look at what Senegal is doing. When I was reading issues connecting to the Senegal Energy for Women Empowerment Program, I noticed that in 2017, you decided to collect data first, to identify what was needful, and then to be able to start working on it, and to have a whole section under the Ministry of Energy to execute these things. Can you let us know so far what you've been able to achieve with one, from the perspective of research and then implementation, so that perhaps other countries can emulate same?
Thank you. Je m'excuse tout d'abord de faire ma présentation en français.
I'll be presenting in French.
Je tiens tout d'abord à remercier, au nom de Madame le ministre du Pétrole et des Énergies, empêchée, c'est elle qui devait normalement être ici, mais elle a un conflit d'agenda, ce qui ne lui a pas permis d'être ici aujourd'hui. À remercier Madame Lydie Akisimana, présidente directeur générale de EMS et son équipe pour cette invitation, mais aussi la féliciter pour son leadership et son engagement dans l'éducation, notamment ses filles dans les domaines des sciences.
I'll first of all like to thank you all and thank Madam Lydie for extending this invitation to me.
On va tout d'abord parler de la transition énergétique en Afrique et cette thématique qui nous interpelle tous aujourd'hui et qui vient à son heure. Et j'espère que les échanges qui sortiront de ce panel permettront de brasser les différentes expériences et de les disséminer une fois arrivés chacun chez nous.
I'll be talking about energy transition in Africa.
Et cet échange est d'autant plus nécessaire puisqu'il existe un gap énorme au niveau des pays en développement en matière d'énergie. Aujourd'hui, il a été noté que plus de 3 milliards de la population mondiale n'a pas accès à une énergie propre. Et c'est une énergie propre de cuisson. Et quand on parle de cuisson, on fait référence souvent en Afrique aux femmes. Et cela produit des dioxydes qui est nocif à la santé de la femme, surtout de la femme en état de procréation, ce qui affecte la femme et aussi bien la femme que son enfant. Donc, je pense qu'aujourd'hui, il est impératif de travailler pour une énergie propre et durable en Afrique. Au Sénégal, bien avant la problématique actuelle de la transition énergétique, l'État a eu cœur de mener des politiques intégrées alliant les besoins d'apporter de l'énergie à tous, de limiter aussi la déforestation, de diminuer les maladies respiratoires dues à l'usage de mauvais moyens de cuisson et aussi de créer des emplois pour les femmes et les jeunes. Quand on sait que souvent en Afrique, dans le monde rural, les femmes utilisent le bois de chauffe et aussi du charbon de bois pour la cuisson. Et au niveau du Sénégal, nous avons depuis plus de 20 ans développé, transposé notre politique dans une lettre pour mieux axer les stratégies du secteur de l'énergie. Et dans cette lettre-là, nous avons plusieurs programmes Et il y a le programme pour accès à l'offre. Il y a le programme aussi sur les énergies renouvelables. Et dans ce programme sur les énergies renouvelables, il y a la transition énergétique qui est gérée par une agence. Aujourd'hui, le Sénégal a eu à faire beaucoup d'efforts dans ce domaine-là, parce que dans la lettre de politique du secteur de l'énergie, il était prévu en 2022 d'atteindre 18% de pénétration en matière de mix énergétique. Et actuellement, on est à 21,52% hors électricité. C'est pour dire qu'on a à faire beaucoup d'avancées en matière de mix énergétique et de transition énergétique. Maintenant, pour aller dans le vif du sujet, qui est le genre, le Sénégal a institutionnalisé la dimension du genre pour une appropriation de tous les ministères. Il a institutionnalisé le genre, que tous les départements des ministères ont des cellules genre. Et dans ces cellules genre, nous avons des plans d'action. Et au niveau du ministère de l'Intérieur, l'énergie du Sénégal, le plan d'action a été appuyé par la CEDEAO. Et ce plan d'action est sur 5 ans. Et dans ces 5 ans-là, nous avons déjà épuisé 2 ans. Il a été mis en œuvre des programmes pour le renforcement de la représentativité des femmes, tels que le programme de stage initié l'appui du partenaire MCA Sénégal. Aujourd'hui, les femmes dans le secteur de l'énergie représentent 23,52% de manière globale, mais dans les postes de décision, elles représentent 5%, tout en sachant qu'au niveau mondial, avec les statistiques d'une étude de PNUD, les femmes dans le secteur de l'énergie représentent 20%. Donc, c'est vous dire qu'au Sénégal, on a des avancées. Mais toujours, il reste des défis à relever, parce que dans la politique de la CEDEAO dont on se réfère, il est prévu d'atteindre 50% d'ici 2030.
Just so that the translator doesn't lose all the information, I think you can come in, and then when we feel that it's well answered, then we can continue the conversation. Okay. So please go ahead with your interpretation.
Okay, she start by talking about gender issues in Senegal and how this is affecting activities in their countries. And also she spoke about the energy aspect, the energy mix, what the country intends to do, how the country intends to represent women in the energy sector. She also said that in Senegal, the country wants to ensure that at all at ministerial level, each ministry is equipped or has a gender unit, and to ensure that women and all issues affecting them are taken care of. She also spoke about the work that they are doing with ECOWAS, the support that ECOWAS is giving them in Senegal with all the activities. That's it for now.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was a brief one for all that she spoke about. But I would like us to go to ECOWAS, and then, of course, we can come to our development partners to see where the support and the issues come in.
Okay.
Yes, so I'm coming to ECOWAS now, yes. So ECOWAS has a policy document called the ECOWAS Policy for Gender Mainstreaming in Energy Access. And in that document since 2013, you have been looking at taking a look at energy policies and making sure that they are gender sensitive. And some of the timelines, for example, you want to be able to do this by 2020, about 50% of all energy policies should be gender sensitive. By 2030, 100% gender sensitivity when it comes to energy policies. Yet, the whole world, according to the United Nations, indicates that women in gender gender involvement in energy policy is just about 6%. And of course, women as ministers of energy is just about 6% globally. Now, the question is, how is this going to be executed? So far, what has ECOWAS been able to achieve with this policy, especially amongst the ECOWAS nations?
Thank you very much. Beforehand, let me thank AIMS for this opportunity. It's very meaningful for ECOWAS to be here in Ghana. His Excellency Nana Addo being the ECOWAS and AU champion for gender matters. So we salute the holding of this activity here in Ghana. I am Sandra Ulate. I'm the director for the ECOWAS Gender Development Center. We are the specialized agency for ECOWAS, the operational levy for ECOWAS when it comes to gender matters. We are based in Dakar, Senegal, while our headquarters are in Abuja, Nigeria. I will also make my statements in French following this intervention. I just wanted to mention that this afternoon we will have a dedicated session. So we present the ECOWAS Gender Development Center to everybody, and we will be able to go more into depth into some of these questions. Thank you very much. So we have a presentation at the back, but as I said, this afternoon, we will go into more details. So let me continue in French. I was taken over by the English. Pour répondre à votre question, Madame, effectivement, la commission de la CEDEAO s'est dotée d'une stratégie en matière d'énergie il y a de cela quelques années. Cette stratégie est le fruit de la collaboration entre le CCDG, le Centre pour le développement du genre, et ECRI, notre agence spécialisée en matière d'énergie renouvelable. Vous l'avez mentionné, cette politique date de 2020. Depuis lors, il y a eu beaucoup d'avancées parce que c'est depuis 2022 que le Centre pour le développement du genre s'investit plus particulièrement pour permettre une mise en œuvre plus précise de cette politique, plus adaptée et plus conforme aux réalités du moment. Donc nous nous investissons en matière d'énergie renouvelable. Nous vivons une situation alarmante due au changement climatique, la sécheresse, les inondations, les chaleurs extrêmes, et la CEDEAO est mandatée pour développer des stratégies, programmes et politiques pour remédier aux vulnérabilités différentielles des femmes, hommes et garçons et filles avant, pendant et après une catastrophe. Donc, ce qui est nouveau aujourd'hui, c'est la mise en place d'une feuille de route pour la transition vers l'économie verte et d'un plan d'action spécifique sur le genre dans l'économie verte pour les États membres de la CEDEAO pour la période 2023-2025 en vue d'atteindre l'égalité des sexes et l'autonomisation de toutes les femmes et filles dans le contexte des politiques et programmes concernant le changement climatique, l'environnement et la réduction des risques de catastrophes. Je m'arrête là pour permettre la traduction et je pourrai répondre plus précisément. Juste pour résumer, pour dire que nous avons évolué depuis la politique de 2020. Nous sommes maintenant positionnés pour des actions plus concrètes et plus précises dans le domaine d'activité mentionné. Merci.
Okay. In a nutshell, I just wanted to say that since 2020 to up till now, we have done quite a lot at our center.
I was wondering,
Oui,
I mean,
allez.
since you speak English,
Okay.
you should
Allez-y.
be able to
Oui, allez-y.
translate
Oui.
that. Yeah.
Okay. Let me summarize. I wanted to
Yeah.
be more specific with the French.
Yes.
Let me sum up what I said. You mentioned a policy
Yes.
from 2020. In my statement, I detailed the fact that since 2020, ECOWAS has gone ahead making this policy more operational with the implication of the Gender Center. The policy was designed in collaboration with the Gender Center and ECRI, our specialized agency for energy. At that time, the center only went along with ECRI to design the policy. Today, we have been instructed to implicate ourselves for renewable energies and the green transition. And so we have a roadmap to transition to this matter and an action plan for gender in this area that we are implementing from 2023 to 2025. And I can answer more specifics. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I still want to stay with you because I'm interested in how financial institutions under ECOWAS are actually championing some of the issues relating to gender. IBID is one of your financial arms as ECOWAS in making sure that apart from the governmental level, the private sector is also concentrating on diverse issues concerning ECOWAS. How has IBID's operations connected to issues relating to energy and the gender-specific bit of it, of financing?
EBID is the ECOWAS bank, just to make the statement short. So they are involved in supporting all the activities. What I want to mention, and especially under the authority, again, of His Excellency Nana Addo, he was recently heading the Authority of Heads of States and Government for ECOWAS. We have included gender mainstreaming across board, all operations for ECOWAS. So EBID is very strongly involved for all these activities.
Thank you very much. I am interested in the cooperation and development partnerships of things. One of the main challenges, and when you take a look at the data, is how women are positioned when it comes to the educational part of STEM, and the fact that the energy sector still really lacks a lot of that bit in relation to the numbers when it comes to women in STEM and women in energy. How is the Canadian International Development Research Center coordinating with, for example, the whole of Africa and indeed your specific call in Ghana when it comes to STEM education, which is one of the key factors that can turn around the numbers?
Thank you very much, and thank you to Ames for the opportunity to speak today. And I'm here, at the invitation of IDRC, but I'm certainly not a full representative of IDRC. But I will contextualize the question, I think, in sort of a broader approach, which IDRC is a part of, and that is that Canada has a feminist international assistance policy. So whether it is women in STEM and in the education sector, whether it's the energy sector, regardless of where it is, this policy applies. And we launched it in 2017. We've always done a lot of work on gender equality, but this policy was really quite a deliberate effort, and I think that's my core message, is this is a deliberate action we have to take. We believe that putting gender equality at the center of our work is key to eradicating poverty, and it's building a more peaceful and more inclusive and prosperous world. So within that policy framework, we focus on gender equality both as a targeted area of work in our core action area and also as a cross-cutting area of work across the entire feminist international assistance policy. Within our targeted approaches, we're addressing the structural challenges. We're supporting women's rights organizations to have a better voice. We're working on the global epidemic of sexual and gender-based violence, and we're supporting gender-based data and women's machinery in government and the integration of gender equality across government. In the targeted areas, whether that is education, whether it's energy, climate, et cetera, it's a cross-cutting factor. And we are very deliberate in looking at how the projects, whether done by IDRC or by Global Affairs Canada, that they're developed and implemented in a way that improves gender equality and empowers women and girls. So, you know, today we're focusing on the energy sector, and that aligns with a couple of the action areas of the Feminist International Assistance Policy. One is on growth that works for everyone. And it includes sustainable agriculture, green technologies, renewable energy, and work on technical and vocational education and training. And the other is environment and climate action, which focuses on adaptation and mitigation. So within the context of those projects, we do a gender-based analysis plus. That is, the plus is to say we analyze not only what the impacts are for women and men, but also diverse women and men, looking at economic status, looking at geography, ethnicity, all of the various factors that can create marginalization or leave people behind, in the words of the SDGs. And we do this domestically on all programs and policies and even our budget, and then we do it in our international assistance. So for our international assistance partners and projects, that includes consulting women, involving them in the needs assessment, the decision making, the planning of the initiatives, and then how it's implemented, monitored, and evaluated. So all that to say, it's a very deliberate approach. And I can tell you that our ministers, that our senior officials, they look at these elements when we send our approval packages up. So when it comes up to their desk, they're actually paying attention to how is this coded against gender integration. Were women's rights groups and local organizations engaged in the design of the project? And how are we going to make sure that our implementing project partners have the expertise to deliver on those expected results? And so these are all a really important part of how we go about doing our work and how IDRC goes about doing their work to ensure that gender integration is a heart of the project, and that as much as possible, the programs that we support are not just gender sensitive, in fact, they're gender transformative. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So you've got to really help me with that, your name, so that I don't butcher it. Is it Pieter Smith van Gelder?
Yeah, that's about right. You guys just say Peter, the English name.
The microphones.
It's just Peter.
Okay, great. So the Women Gender Equity, the Energy Transition document, which has been presented to the European Parliament, has indicated that the EU has as much as 75% of its contribution to the greenhouse gases being mainly from the energy sector. Therefore, the EU is very passionate about solving issues relating to the energy sector by dealing with energy poverty, dealing with data collection within the gender space. In Ghana, your operations in Ghana, and in fact, if you have the data on Africa, what has been your concentration, especially when it comes to gender?
Thank you, madam. It's great to be here with many women in the audience and more than 50% women on the panel, I think. So that is very good. We're happy to be here as EU. I'm glad you asked. So for us as the European Union, with the new Commission, not really new anymore, von der Leyen, is the first time a woman is the head of the European Commission, and also her commission of 27 commissioners is 50% female. One of her great priorities, so indeed our priorities, is indeed the Green Deal, as you said. Green Deal meaning we endeavor to be the first continent who by 2050 will be net zero, so meaning polluting or no greenhouse gases anymore. As we said in the beginning, indeed it's true, there was historical reasons Europe should be on the forefront of this. At the same time, we cannot do it alone, of course. US, Canada are there, China doing its part. Africa needs to be done a lot as well. And indeed, it's a priority here for us. We have what we call the Global Gateway, and it is a way to see how we can help Africans to do the energy transition. Because let's face it, we cannot continue consuming the way we do. We cannot continue producing the way we do. We really need a transformation. And I like what my colleague just said, not only gender sensitive, but also gender transformative, meaning you have to apply the women at the beginning of all your projects in the M&E and in the whole execution of the projects. This is what we're doing here in Ghana. We had our Commissioner for International Partnership, also a woman, Jutta Urpilainen from Finland, also a name difficult to pronounce, coming here, seeing President Akufo-Addo and the Minister of Finance here, and talking about the execution of our projects. We know in Ghana, compared to other countries in Africa, a relatively quite high percentage of people having access to electricity. We're not at 100% yet, but higher than elsewhere, together with Kenya, together with South Africa and the north part of Africa. But many other parts of Africa, it's not there yet. So we're working on that as well. And I would like to, well, we were asked to keep it short, so I'll keep it short, not as short as the translation, but still. I would like to quote the Executive Vice President, he's from my country, Mr. Frans Timmermans. He said, it needs to be a just transition or there will just be no transition. Meaning, you need to imply everybody, rich, poor, old, young, male and female, in the energy transition, in the climate transition, and in everything we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're coming back to Ghana. Of course, since the whole discussion, we are also in Ghana having the discussion as well. And I'm still staying on the same document because it's definitely the roadmap that we are going to use for execution, Ministry of Energy. Your transition in relation to figures when it comes to renewables is at 20% by 2070. That is quite modest, looking at how the whole world is gunning towards some great figures. One of the main setbacks, for example, has been issues relating to power agreements that have been signed in the past. What component of this 20% transition would we say will be solving some of the gender issues that we currently have? You have spoken in relation to access to cleaner fuels and the rest of it. This 20%, of which component would we have addressing the energy issues of women?
Thank you very much. I think the framework, essentially, you know that our framework looks at net zero by 2070. And the idea is to ensure that we're taking advantage of the natural resource that we have, extracting it and producing it sustainably, and transitioning into renewables in a graduated way. Let's face it, the resources of hydrocarbons, if you extracted them sustainably, also has the potential to impact socio-economic development for majority of our people. And so that balance is crucial. And you're right about the investments that is required for the implementation of the framework, something north of 600 billion United States dollars. With all that research at your disposal, I'm wondering why you're not a member of the panel. But what we need to do is to take those hard decisions that allow us to be able to curate projects attractive enough, green, climate friendly, part of the framework, dovetailed into the agenda to ensure that the investment comes in which mainstreams gender and women issues. And I think we're seeing from some of the work that we are doing that there's really light at the end of the tunnel for that. For instance, Peter is right, we have 88 electricity access. What we're left with, we're calling the last mile, and it's the difficult one, where you're talking about very remote areas, you're talking about island communities, and it's the difficult, very difficult areas. What we're doing, for instance, is to introduce solar mini grids on these islands. We have piloted 5 islands already, and we're seeing very significant impact in terms of electricity for health issues, electricity for education, electricity for SMEs, and the impact is going directly to the gender and the women and youth bracket. And we believe that is the way to go. Renewables is the way to go. How we transition with more solar, wind. Of course, we can't run away from natural gas. These power plants, how do we transition from thermal gas to take advantage of the resource that we have? We account in Africa for 3% less than 3% of the emissions. Let's be honest. We are about 16% of the world's population. And so the question of a just transition means just that. That while we're still on a trajectory of economic inclusion, we're not stranded and shortchanged in terms of those tools that can allow us to expedite and reach that inclusion that we seek. But how do we also catch up with the global agenda, which we're very much party to, which we believe in, and which we believe is the long-term solution to the issues that we're facing. In the end, wherever you are, whether you are in Accra or you are in Dakar or you are in Toronto, the effects of the carbon emission is felt. Flooding, drought, and the impact on young people, on local economies, on women is felt directly. And so we have a responsibility to make the investment. And what we're currently doing is to make sure that we develop the framework into an investment plan. Nigeria is ahead of us in terms of that. So I think 2 weeks ago, I led a delegation, 3 weeks ago, to Abuja. Their policy implementation sits at the presidency, and we're trying to do just that. And so we did a one-day working session with them, taking lessons on how they've been able to develop the framework to attract the investments that they are attracting over there, as well as in South Africa as well. Last week I was in Dakar on the same issue. We worked with ECRI to see how we work together, collaborate, share ideas for being able to transition with a document that gets us to bring in the investment. We invest more in renewables. We invest more in cleaner technologies. We train more young people and women in that regard, and we will be contributing to an inclusive economic paradigm.
I will speak with you, the Minister for Environment, because the carbon market, for example, could be one of the places we could be getting investment from in order to position well for gender-related issues. We a country that also drills oil and for export. At your level at the Ministry of Environment, how are you connecting with these companies that are doing exploration and oil from the nation in order to, for example, use carbon offsetting as one of the spaces to raise some revenue in order to correct some of these energy-related issues?
First of all, let me explain that carbon trading has come a long way, but it's been a recent phenomenon, especially in its implementation. After Paris, the rule book had to be, adopted, and as far as I remember, it was adopted only about 2 years ago. But in Africa, we've come a very long way. When the rule book was adopted, especially when President Biden came to power and almighty USA acceded to it. It provided a platform for us to, crank up our framework. So we've done our framework for which nationally we can negotiate with entities, governments. For governments, it's very easy. But, for private companies, that's the real McCoy for carbon trading. So under, I keep on confusing 6.2 and 6.4. But one of them, that is, I think 6.4, is for the markets. And that is where you do your national framework and you avoid double counting, fraud, and all those things that we have to be very careful to address. We launched our framework on Sharm el-Sheikh by no less a person than the president. And even under that, we've had one success. If you take Minister Jenna Paul's entity, that's Lands and Natural Resources under REDD+, where cocoa, for example, we've been able to get actually a check from the REDD+ for trading in markets. We had under MESTI, we had several inquiries from several private entities, but the negotiations lie with actual boots on the ground negotiations. Is a multi-sectorial activity, and a major part lies with the beneficiary entities, like I explained, like energy, for example. What part of the market, what are they going to use for, like we said, cook stoves and other renewables like solar panels and all that. When it comes to the nitty-gritty, we rely on the other sectors to make use of that. And then, like I explained, MESTI, coordinates all these activities. So yes, because of that, we are hampered, and the minister is sometimes even not able to give you direct answers, but we know how the system works. Once with the inertia has been, I have a sense that the inertia, we've gotten over the hump, there will be a deluge of companies which will be signing agreements with us, with the other, sectors as off-takers, as beneficiaries. And with that, MESTI will do what is needful. But of course, we are in a position also to point out the potentials to the other ministries that, look, when you use this one, it will be even more beneficiary to the country, and we have the opportunity to compare countries. So let me answer you directly that, yes, we've taken the tentative steps. Actually, we are ahead of several countries, not only in Africa, but elsewhere, because this carbon trading is not gone too far, after Paris. So we are even in pole position to take advantage, and a lot of interest have come. even on government-to-government basis, where we think we use these. This is 26 for again. Right now, Kingdom of Sweden, for example, it's lying cabinet, for example. If they give it approval, we're going to have an agreement with them. Singapore is on board. But these are government to governments, and that's why I'm saying for them that is no-brainer. The real McCoy lies with dealing with private entities, but we are in a pole position to do that going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I would like to move the discussion to a more regional perspective and go to ECOWAS to ask that. For energy transition, we have seen just about 2% of all the funding that comes globally come to Africa. I'm not too sure how much of it has come to West Africa, for example. Why aren't we able to tap into the opportunities as a continent and as a region, and in order to be able to use some of these financing to support accelerating gender inclusion in the whole of the conversations across the region for you as ECOWAS?
Thank you very much. What I would want to do rather is give you more insight on what ECOWAS is doing so we move forward when it comes to these matters. So I mentioned the establishment of a roadmap for the transition to green economy and an action plan on gender in the green economy for ECOWAS member states for the period 2023 to 2025. So we have moved from a policy document to concrete action. I want to go through the requirements for the member states so we strategize and transition to green economy. So adopt policies that promote this transition for women, obtain a commitment from states to support the transition, improve women's skills through capacity building, promote access to education and the involvement of girls, encourage women to invest in new green jobs, involve the private sector in the transition to a green economy, put in place mitigation policies, take into account other women's empowerment programs that can impact the transition to the green economy, facilitate access to land, particularly in agroforestry, ensure access to finance, emphasize social responsibility and monitoring and evaluation, promote synergy between the various actors involved in the transition to the green economy, and promote synergy amongst our member states.
Thank you very much. Since you're going to have a session on ECOWAS and explain further some of the things that ECOWAS has done, I'm sure it won't be great to belabor the point. Peter, like I, in the introduction, spoke about the fact that access to financing for Africa is still very little in the whole scheme of things, and of course issues relating to gender will even be slimmer in terms of investments. Coming from you as development cooperation organizations, exactly how are you supporting? Because like the Deputy Minister said, it is not an African issue, it's a global issue, and if we sit aloof and not do anything about what is going on and the fact that we need to transition, we will have challenges globally, not just in Africa.
I agree completely with you. I think we're all, as we say, a bit of a cliche, in the same boat. We're all bound by the SDGs, of course, which we all underlined and underwrote. We're all bound by what we agreed in Paris and then again in Glasgow and Sharm el-Sheikh. For our side, we of course do what we pledge. We had the European Investment Bank here not so long ago, the director coming, signing several agreements here with Ghana. I think it's important to stay engaged with Ghana. Here in the country we have a sizable development envelope of 150 million euros over the coming years. There again, like other development partners, we have the gender lens, and 70% of all activities should be, gender focused and for women and girls. Allow me to mention just 3. So we have in the north of Ghana, which is our main focus on agriculture and on the green transition and on energy. One of our bigger programs, the Ghana Agriculture Program of 132 million. What I mentioned already, the Global Gateway with the European Investment Bank is a way of us for Europe to acknowledge that, we cannot do it alone. Africa cannot do it alone, Ghana cannot do it alone. We need banks, we need the private sector, we need all actors involved to get to this transition. And then maybe lastly, we focus also in our program on green transition and smart cities. And we have programs with Green, with SNV from the Netherlands and the UN for 20 million. And circular economy is very essential to us. Just one project we visited 2 weeks ago, it was our ambassador. He has also a difficult name, I won't pronounce it here. But on Handy Mango farm, not far from here, and led by 2 sisters, 2 Ghanaian women. So most of the time, of course, I agree with the ministers, is high level investment banks, government, private sector. But sometimes it's also important to, as EU, also support very small business from women to, get to the next stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Peter. Peter will have to take leave of us. We will take all of you your concluding remarks, and then we will bring the session to an end. But I'm still interested in finding out from Senegal what lessons we can learn, as a continent. You have done fantastically well to put a gender desk in virtually all your ministries, but how are you coordinating and cooperating with the private sector, which is actually the engine of growth?
Si je ne me trompe, vous posez la question à savoir quelles sont les actions qui sont menées au Sénégal dans le domaine d'intégration du genre et les partenaires.
Oui, au fait,
Can you translate?
La question est de savoir, au fait, vous avez implémenté cette problématique de genre au niveau ministériel. Maintenant, comment vous intégrez les parties prenantes, par exemple les privés et les sectoriels dans ce programme-là? Voilà.
Merci. En fait, au niveau du ministère, on a, comme vous l'avez dit, implémenté en mettant en œuvre le plan d'action genre-énergie. Maintenant, on travaille avec certains programmes qui coordonnent avec la société civile et les projets qui travaillent dans le domaine du genre. Par exemple, il y a le programme de la GIZ Énergie durable. Aujourd'hui, il coordonne les activités de genre de toutes les structures qui évoluent dans le domaine du genre et énergie au niveau du Sénégal. Nous, les partenaires qui appuient le genre au niveau du Sénégal, comme l'Union européenne, dans un programme d'électrification en énergie renouvelable qui appuie le genre au niveau du ministère avec un montant de $500 000. Il y a aussi le MCA qui appuie le ministère dans le programme de stage que j'avais cité tout à l'heure, dont 50 filles sont prises en charge au niveau du secteur à faire leur immersion afin d'être beaucoup plus proches du secteur. Et aussi cette activité, ce programme plutôt, va permettre de sensibiliser les jeunes femmes à connaître le secteur de l'énergie et à s'intéresser au métier des énergies. Nous avons aussi...
Je peux d'abord résumer un petit peu et puis vous allez commenter.
D'accord.
Si c'est possible. So she was saying that regarding their implementation with companies and national institutions. They have a partnership with international institutions such as JZ, which is working with the government, and then they are working with those national sectors, firm that's working in energy, that like they are doing some kind of internship in order to learn, like to have best practice in energy, and then also to be interested in those kind of sectors, in the energy sectors. Voilà.
Voilà, merci. Et il y a aussi, comme je le disais tout à l'heure, le programme énergie durable qui les GIE de femmes à avoir des activités génératrices de revenus, c'est-à-dire l'autonomisation des femmes dans le monde rural. Comme vous le savez, au Sénégal, nous avons pratiquement atteint l'accès universel au niveau urbain. Mais le principal défi actuellement, c'est le monde rural avec 58,2% d'électrification, ce qui pose problème aux femmes pour avoir accès à une énergie propre pour la cuisson, activité génératrice de revenus. De ce fait, la GIZ, avec les Impact, Mercy Corps, entre autres, développe des applications solaires, c'est-à-dire, quand je parle d'applications, il y a les moulins, les frigos solaires, les presses à huile, et tout cela sont développés pour les femmes de ces localités un peu éloignées du Sénégal et qui ont des problèmes d'accès à l'énergie. Et ces applications, souvent des applications solaires. Aujourd'hui, en 2022, plus de 1027 femmes ont bénéficié directement de ces applications-là pour gagner leur vie, appuyer leur famille et leurs enfants aussi. Il y a aussi le programme ENDEV avec les foyers améliorés. D'habitude, les foyers améliorés servaient seulement aux femmes pour faire la cuisine, entre autres. Ça ne les permettait pas de gagner de l'argent. Maintenant, ils ont sensibilisé les femmes pour qu'elles travaillent dans la distribution, dans la confection, même des foyers améliorés, pour qu'elles puissent y avoir des revenus et aussi s'autonomiser, comme on le souhaite. Nous avons, dans la lettre de politique sectorielle que j'avais dit tout à l'heure, des programmes. Et dans ces programmes-là, il y a qui est le programme sur les énergies renouvelables qui prend en compte le mix énergétique. Aujourd'hui, le taux de pénétration du mix énergétique qui était fixé pour 2022 à 18%, hors hydroélectricité, actuellement à 21,52% en 2021. Donc, ce qui veut dire que les chiffres vont évoluer en 2022 et je pense que c'est une...
Thank you very much.
So I will try to summarize what she said. So she was saying that based on the program of the AU that was empowering women, so they also have another program to help women to be autonomous, like financially autonomous. And then she also talked about the fact that actually Senegal has attained 52% of the global energy access, but based on the fact that there is some kind of program, like European Union has a program of solar power, like they have some kind of tools with solar power that is maybe implementing with some kind of fridge and some kind of cooking stove that help people in the rural area to be able to have access maybe to the energy.